I'm May Al Gaidi, the curator of Afra Al Dhaheri Restless Circle exhibition. I have followed Afra's practice over the years, and what really drew me in is her ability to work with these organic materials such as hair, fabric, rope, and kind of transform them into something that holds both fragility and strength. Her practice is deeply tied to ideas of time, patience, and also failure. And that really resonates with my curatorial interest. For me, this exhibition is an opportunity to bring these threads together, not just by showing the works, but also by allowing the audience to encounter the process and the intensity behind making these works.
This exhibition had been a journey. May reached out to me and expressed her interest in curating a show for my work, and honestly I was humbled. I felt honored to be asked by May. I think she's an interesting and she's a fantastic, brilliant thinking curator. So I was really honored to be asked by May, especially that this is like her first institutional exhibition, my first solo institutional exhibition as well.
Afra and I worked with the exhibition designers to think of the placement of each artwork, to think of the flow of the space, how the works are connected with each other, and how that can also reflect on Afra's own practice, all the repetition in the space and this spiral essence.
The title of the exhibition, Da'ira Ha'ira Restless Circles, comes from the title of a work that we decided to include in this exhibition. It's a work that actually was in progress. It was a proposal that initially was rejected by another institution, and the idea was for it to exist in a landscape, in an actual landscape of the desert. And it's been really just an observation of mine when I was younger, being in Al Ain. My family are originally from Al Ain, so being exposed to the landscape and the desert of Al Ain, I've always noticed these trailing patterns that these shrubs, desert shrubs, make. It just stayed in the back of my memory. And then I saw it in an alternative landscape, which surprised me. And I was like, oh my God, this took me really back to my hometown and where I am used to seeing these. But it was also at a time when I was heavily kind of being observant and reflective of the state of society and the state of art and the state of making in my practice. And I felt like I needed urgently to slow down my practice. I needed to be more observant. I needed to be more articulate towards my progression and the progression of my work. And hence, that led me to introduce repetitive practices in my work. It introduced me or led me to engage in more habitual practices that allow me to see more in the process or in the meaning of the work as it's happening than just merely a form, you know? The choice of wires that you see on the work is actually music wires. They're usually used in musical instruments. My first introduction to it was piano wires. And so I was very interested also in this like movement that is so loud in projecting meaning, but actually silent because it's not on an instrument.
I think what I like about Afra's works is that they're very delicate. So working with them really requires a lot of attention to weight and balance, both physically and visually. Making the exhibition came with a lot of back and forth, with a lot of adjustments as well. And really the challenge was to think of placing these works in a way that where they can hold each other in the space without losing their individual qualities. We also noticed the play of reflection in the space during daytime and nighttime, which really created these endless mirrored circles in the space. We collaborated very closely with Afra. She's very involved in staging the artworks, And that created a lot of conversations where we went back and forth with practicality and concepts as well.
Working with cement, rope, and hair come from different avenues. And they're, let's say, a lexicon of materials that I have developed and evolved over the years of my practice so far. They've become prominent, they become a language in how I speak. There was a class during my MFA program that I took and was really influential in the way that I think about material. And the course was called Meaning in the Medium. And it really focused on getting us to extract meaning out of mediums. Like mediums in their existence, cement in its existence already has a connotation. It already has an association. If I tell you what does cement represent to you, you might, I mean, the common answers I've been getting would be, house, building, brutalist architecture, So there's an association. But I took it into my practice, and in my reference, it represented my landscape, the landscape that I've lived in. I grew up in Abu Dhabi, and I've been surrounded by construction materials, such as cement heavily. And so it became like this, one of those building blocks in my practice that I used almost like Legos. And projected meaning onto it in various ways. In the fabric pieces that I present in this exhibition, they function as almost like a marital relationship where you have to compromise and they support each other. The weave of the fabric supports the sustenance and the placement of the cement, and it keeps it intact and it doesn't fall off. And vice versa, by the presence of the cement, it almost functions as a glue for that weave to stay in place. But if you look at the piece from the back, you won't see the cement seeping through and taking over. They're really sitting side by side. So that's one about cement. And then hair and rope come as a result of one another. I started using hair as a material that holds layers of meanings. Whether it's a cultural reference to hair or a religious reference to hair or societal reference to hair. It's a material that even scientific or biological reference to hair, it holds so much meaning, it holds so much information. It's an important material that I used to project meaning about societal constructs and inherited ideologies of upbringing, for example.
Repetition is a concept that runs through Afra's practice. You can see it in the braiding, in tying, in undoing, and also you can see it with how the works accumulate meaning through persistence, through endurance. So a gesture done over and over, it kind of carries memory, it carries weight. And also it carries transformation. So this exhibition kind of reflects these rhythms within the works. I hope audiences experience time as something that lingers because a lot of these works actually invite you to slow down, to look at details. You can see that kind of in the details of a tied knot. You can see it in the fragility of a cement on top of fabric. You can see it in a rope that begins to fray. Moving through the show, I also imagine that visitors can sense time and patience differently, and perhaps to reflect on their own relationship with waiting, with duration, and also with repetition.